everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. Hope you had a hell of a day. I had a long day. This was a day that didn't go well. People just keep it real. It wasn't one of those days that went well. However, I managed to get through it with my mind intact. I didn't lose my cool today, and I had so many reasons to lose my cool today. You have no idea. I had a ton of reasons to lose my cool today. One had to do with air travel. And I could do a 2-hour show on it. So what I'll do is I'll say this. I was trying to get to Bug Tussle today. That's why you didn't see me. And that didn't work. So I've had to make other arrangements to get to Bug Tussle. And I've got a plane ticket reserved. Hopefully the next day the next time I try will be better. Layla Bradley, good to see you. The nurse who loved me. What's happening? Lacey Silver, good to see you. Heather MacArthur, Third Eye Open. She's a mod. I thought she was a mod for the last year or so, but she's a mod. Tommy Bird, good to see you. Solomon Mataragas, good to see you. Spike, what's happening? Charlie Murphy. Lacey Silver, good to see you. Crafty Witch, you know who that is. This is better half. Kestrel, you like the Petmaster hat? West Coast Fancy Nancy, good to see you. Christy Hughes, what's happening? Denise, how are you? Hey, Dell. Dell Plummer, good to see you, Dell. Teddy Bowers, what's happening? Dee Razzle Razzle, good to see you. Just Joan, what's happening? Hey, Black Boots, greetings from NYC. Thank you for all you do to benefit the boat. You're a fantastic supporter. Leave comments like Charlie Murphy does very consistently. Actually, nobody leaves. Charlie's been doing this for so long. It's absolutely ridiculous. You could go back to the very first video I did. Charlie left comments, and he hasn't stopped since. He's one of those people. Hello, Teresa, Miss Weedy Poo. Good to see you. That has really supported me and has really supported my family. Not something I take for granted. Wilfred Harry, good to see you. Mayor's Girl, what's happening? Glad that you're here. And because he's been so good to me, I pick on him and call him things like Charlie Muffins or Charlie Murphy. But I do love the man. My sister George, good to see you. Tina Serlin, what's happening? There's the Johnny Scoville. Glad you're here, my brother. Marion Calabro, good to see you. Chase the Heat. For those of you who don't know, that is my brother. Yeah, got a brother. He's looks a lot like me, except he's got this big thing growing off of his chin. Yeah, you know what? Who did I anger in the past 10 lives that my flying plans turn into chaos? You ever been on a plane that's supposed to take off and the plane, like you get out there and it stalls and they got to bring out like the jump starter to jumpstart your plane? This is something that really makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, doesn't it? You think to yourself, what if this thing happens at 4,500 feet? Will somebody be able to, or 45,000 feet, will there be somebody ready to jumpstart it up there? Christy Hughes, thank you so much. Lena in Love, I'm glad you're here. 6 a.m. Darn. I'm sorry that you have the flu. Thoughts and prayers going out to you. That sucks. Hey, Dave, you like the hat? You like the hat? This was a gift from somebody on the lifeboat. And when they gave it to me, it didn't seem like it was. Allison Metcalf Palumbo says, what happened, Tommy? Are flights to Tennessee hard to get right now due to the hurricane aftermath? Here's what's up. I don't live anywhere near a hub. Right? If you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, you can get a flight anywhere. If you're in O'Hare, you can get a flight anywhere. But if you live in the sticks, there are only certain flights that go to where you're going each day. If a flight is completely booked, right? 737's got probably close to 300 people on it, right? Paying customers. I mean, if you take those 300 people and dump them into all the next flights going on for the next 2 days, it gets real hard to get out. Throw into that the fact that, yes, a lot of people have been having problems because of the weather. Marion Calabro, Vixen, good to see you. That throws a monkey wrench into the mix. So that's neither here nor there. I was really hoping to be doing this from Bug Tussle with my girlfriend, but we'll fix it. Becky Ireland, good to see you. You see me on STS all the time. One of my favorite places to be. I love STS. I love Joel and his family. They're just really great people. Been very, very supportive to me from the very beginning of me being a YouTuber. Just solid people. Tommy, can I ask you to hold up that trophy for my family member who is celebrating 21 years of sobriety? Good Lord, he wants to remain anonymous. I am only one of 3 family members that he has told. I am so proud. You know what? You should be. And absolutely we can. To your family member, 21 years is epic. This is the official participation trophy of the lifeboat. Proud of you for 21 years. You know, I talk about this a lot, but in 21 years, do you have any idea how many times your brain said, F this, just throw the chips in, we're done? How many times you had to step up to the plate and say, help me, right? Help me. That's a hard thing to say. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything else, but I'm telling you that, like that guy Yohari says, we're all kind of born in boxes, right? And well, the male box is a little bit different than the one that the females are in, right? So it's a difficult thing for guys in particular to say, hey, help me. It takes an amazing amount of courage to ask for help. Trust me, it took me 46 years to figure out the courage that it took to ask for help. And I wouldn't have if somebody didn't come up and shove it in my face, because that's literally how it went down. I was forced. Sierra Terry, good to see you. Jumping in here? Well, we'll take hugs. We take hugs. We're fans. Purple is my color. Glad to catch you live 11 p.m. after a manic day here in beautiful Iowa. Oh, good. Dangerous Journeyman, good to see you. Brandon Calloway, what's happening, my man? Yeah, thank you, Martha. The STS streams have been a lot of fun lately. Kiwi Girl, good to see you. I don't mean I'm taking any pleasure in the case. This is a disgusting case, right? And I'm not going to talk about it today, by the way. But it's a disgusting case, and it's fun to get away from this case. It really is. Now I'm going to be talking about Matthew Perry today. This is depressing. I've covered the Matthew Perry case. The day that we found out that he had died, I made a video, and the name of the video was "Drugs Killed Matthew Perry." And boy, I got pooped on. You know, there were a lot of people that said, you know, you're assuming things, and I mean, the guy was pretty close to my age, right? Kind of it's not. You don't normally think of 54-year-olds as just dropping dead, especially ones that have a lot of money. See doctors all the time. It's one thing if you're, you know, but that was a guy that had an awful lot of doctors, and it just didn't smell right from Jump Street. And what I was actually saying in the thumbnail was, if this guy died of natural causes, drugs still killed him because of the amount of time he spent strung out. That will absolutely destroy you. No two ways about it. 7 weeks sober today. Brandon Calloway, good for you, man. I know I do this all the time, but Brandon was the first person ever on the boat to show up. And there was not many of us there then. It was a very small program. It really was a very small boat. But he had been sober for 2 or 3 months. And he came in and we said, Brandon, how you doing? And he said, I relapsed last night. And no one had ever said that on the boat. We hadn't had anybody. It was a small crew. No one had ever relapsed. And I remember just being floored by the honesty. No one could see him, right? Everybody was cheering for him. And for him to say to everybody, hey, you know what? I stumbled. But it was so cool to watch all of the people on the boat go, well, it's not the end of the world, is it? I mean, of course you stumbled. It is kind of one of those things. And very often there's going to be a couple of missteps. But if you keep getting yourself up and keep knocking yourself back off, right, and keep walking, it's amazing what can happen to you. You know, 37 there, love it. It's elemental. It's elemental says 21 years is something to be really proud of. There's no question. Del Plummer, I'm not mad at you. I really am not. Del Plummer says I'm drinking wine. Not mad at you. I hope that when you're done hanging out and listening, you asked for help and he said life isn't fair. Wow. May I recommend that maybe you ask somebody else? Because that person doesn't sound like they have a tremendous amount of soul. I'm not trying to pick on whoever that person is. But if you ask for help, especially in that department, and the response is life ain't fair, deal with it, you need to ask somebody else. That person is, it's the nice word I'm looking for. That person's not enlightened in any way, shape, or form, right? This person is also not burdened by deep thought. Because if someone shares something like that with you, and you can honestly put together the sentence, hey, life ain't fair, okay? There's something wrong. There really is. There's something wrong. So Del, here's what I would recommend to everybody. I would like everybody to get sober. I really would. It's the best case scenario, but not everybody needs to. That may sound insane, right? Coming from somebody who's supposed to do what I do, but not everybody needs it. Statistically speaking, there's a very small percentage of people that do drugs that crash and burn. The drug supply today is changing all of that, right, for the worse. But throughout history, it's a very small number of people that crash and burn. Because of fent, because of how poisonous it is, we're seeing numbers a whole lot higher. But normally it's single digit. What percentage of people literally are going to end up dead or incarcerated to where they cannot quit for any reason? It's a very small number. The vast majority of people who use do so responsibly. And for some, they get out of control. It doesn't mean they're an addict. It just means they're out of control. My girlfriend did meth for 2 years. Now, most people would go, oh, yeah, 2 years of doing meth every single day. Obviously, you catch a habit, right? You obviously have a drug problem. She went and never touched it again. She also said she's never even thought about it again. Honestly, like once she got out of the microcosm, right? She got out of the fishbowl that she was living with and could get away from that, never even thought about it again. That's remarkable to people who can't do that. And the people who can't do that have a disease that she does not have. Plain and simple. And I know that there are people who love to argue the disease thing. Do it somewhere else. I'll block you. Because if you're too stupid, no offense, if you're too stupid to realize that this is a disease, you can argue on someone else's channel, because I would hate for somebody to listen to that garbage and believe it's the truth. We can't debate this anymore. You could. When I started my arguments, you could show up and debate me. But these days, you can absolutely map a person's brain and take someone who's an addict and take someone who's not and look at the difference between them. That is a test. That is a test that you can do over and over again, right? It's a repeatable test. And if you can diagnose it with a repeatable test, and there's 3 things, and that's one of them. And for the longest time, we couldn't test. But these days, they can absolutely do that. Matthew Perry case is so depressing because they targeted him for his addiction problems. Yeah. And I'll tell you what else is depressing. So his doctor, Dr. Mark Chavez, who's my age, by the way, Dr. Chavez changed his plea in federal court today from not guilty to guilty. He has been out on bail. On bond. He's been, and I'm not sure if there was cash involved. It might have even just been let out on his own recognizance, because they do that a lot. This guy killed somebody, right? This guy killed somebody. I understand that he's a doctor or whatever, but this guy took someone off of the planet. And what did it is greed. And that, I'm not going to say allegedly, right? We saw text messages that said, hey, how much money do you think we can get out of this moron? How much do you think this moron will pay? And the response was, let's find out. Right? This is somebody that they targeted because they knew this person had a drug problem, and they knew how serious drug problems like this are. And if you have an unlimited amount of money, you'll pay anything to be able to stay with a buzz on, especially if the world doesn't know about it. And from a long-term addict standpoint, this had to be a dream, because it's not an opiate, right? So it seemed in the beginning, I'm sure, like, hey, this really does fix my attitude. Everything feels better if you do a really small amount of ketamine. The trouble is, we're addicts. We're not going to stick with a little amount of ketamine, right? We're not. We're going to keep taking more of it. We're going to keep taking more of it. We're going to keep taking more of it, because that's what we do. One of the symptoms of this disease is that it continues to progress, right? We keep needing more and more and more. And what's fascinating is you don't have to be using for it to progress. So let's say you got somebody that drinks half a fifth a day. And we finally get them into treatment, and they get them clean. Not cold turkey, by the way. Never quit booze or benzos cold turkey. Talk to a doctor before you do. But this person gets clean, right? 2 or 3 years go by, and they make a bad decision. They don't call anybody, and they end up relapsing. When they do, when they relapse, in the beginning, 1 or 2 shots is probably going to catch them a buzz, right? But within a week, they're not going to be back to where that half a fifth a day mark was. They're going to be to where that disease progressed to. Think about it in terms of while you were away not using, your addiction was pumping iron. It was in there waiting for that moment that it can come back out and destroy your life. And I'm not making more of that than it is. Tommy, day 2 of no puff pass, going to bed early, feeling out of sorts. Horton Thistle, proud of you for trying. Proud of you for trying. People, we talk about harm reduction here a lot. If somebody says, hey, I'm having a glass of wine, how many are you going to have during the course of the hour that I'm watching? You don't need to answer this, by the way. It's a rhetorical question. However, if that number is 4, The next time you see me, it would be great if you did 3, okay? 3.5. But if you try to decrease what you're doing and you're able to do that, I'll be honest with you, I never could do harm reduction. Wasn't a possibility in my life, right? But as I said, I'm part of a really small percentage of addicts who are going to end up in prison or dead if they continue to use. They can never stop. They need, like I was a train wreck, 3 times going to prison, long prison record, just a dirtbag. I needed a miracle, right? Unfortunately, I got it. You like the pin path? Thank you, Yolanda. Appreciate it. Malachi, can't get a doc right the first time? Keep trying. Can't get the meds right the first time? Keep trying. Can't get sober right the first time? Keep trying. I'll tell you what, people, I love you guys. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's not a YouTube thing. I really do care about this audience. Kim Roy, good to see you. And I'll tell you, let me tell you how much I care about this audience. I care about this audience so much that I actually acted like an idiot. Hey, Rich, good to see you. I acted like an idiot. I got a text message. I got a text message from someone that has been blocked on my phone for an eternity, right? I mean, a long time. This has been blocked. I'll tell you how long. I had 3,500 subscribers the last time I talked to this human being. Huh? How about that? It's no interaction whatsoever. We haven't talked nothing. This person texts me out of the blue, and I don't know why it was no longer blocked. Maybe because I got a new phone or whatever, but I saw the prefix and it's in a town I used to live in. And the text message said something about, I saw something on bank robbery, or saw something on how to rob a bank. And I thought of you. And I didn't know who it was. And I didn't want to say that. So I thought maybe if I respond, they're going to say something that's going to help me to remember who this person is, right? Because it didn't have a name next to it. So I wrote, yeah, I won't lie. I've been known to rob banks. You know, it's happened in the past. I think that's what I said. I've robbed a few banks in the past. That's what I said. And then this person went on a tear to tell me what a scumbag I was. And just to talk about my criminal record and the fact that what I do here, I do for degenerate pieces of crap. Drug addicts, criminals. It was really harsh. It really was. It was harsh and just hateful. And the story goes, and I've talked about this on the boat before, by the way, because this is not the first time she's done this. But now she's back. And it's funny because every time this weirdo does one of these texts, it's at about 12:30 in the morning. We got some people on here that have done a little partying in their life. Somebody only texts you at 12:30 at night, right? I mean, we're different than the average person. What's your first thought? Your first thought is, this person's drunk. This person doesn't send me messages unless they're in the bag, right? They sound lovely, says Third Eye Open. Here's the sad thing, right? I have said in the past that this person is an ugly troll, right? And I don't mean troll as in internet troll. I mean troll as in troll. But the truth of the matter is, she's not an ugly person physically. She's not. She's my age, maybe a little older than me. And honestly, she's a person that's aged well. But she'll be the first person to tell you instantly that she aged well because she doesn't drink. She's never done drugs. That's for losers like us. Like, she really lays this on thick. And it really bums her out when I talk about her. So I thought I would highlight this story. And also because I can work it into this. I got sober from booze with your help, Tommy. No other. This new quit plan, I need the AA crowd. I get it, my brother. I get it. And you know something? It's never a one size fits all. And sometimes it's one from column A and one from column B. It's amazing. But I knew someone that went through NA to get off 2 or 3 substances that they were abusing full time. But when it came to quitting alcohol, they went to NA. They could not go to AA. For alcohol, it was a trigger. Like, every time they went, it was a problem. And they ended up here, oddly enough. Lumen, good to see you. But I think this person was shocked because they came across the channel, and now the channel's got 22,000 people on it, right? And we tend to stay pretty busy. There's a lot more people in the chat. So she wanted me to know that regardless of how many people are here, I'm still a piece of shit. And she thought it was important that I know that. Helena Flock of Swan Boats, good to see you. The good news is I blocked her again. And you know, unless I somehow get a different phone or whatever, I should probably never have to deal with this person ever again. But there's a life lesson in this. It's amazing how you can take somebody that ought to look fairly attractive and they will look so ugly, right? By the time yeah, I'm a degenerate just because I love the boat. Dee Dee Razzle Dazzle. It's really surprising. I have done Matthew Cox's show, Christy Hughes. I did a show with Matthew Cox. Matthew and I are friends. He's another federal inmate. He's been super successful since he got out. I love seeing people get out of prison and turn their life around, right? Because in theory, if you screw up, you go to prison, you do your time. When you get out, you're supposed to not have to deal with people like this hater. I understand that there are people who are going to never, ever get over the fact that I've been in prison. And I'm actually completely cool with that. I am. But don't come and watch me. You know, if you're one of those people that just hate convicts, there's a 56 million YouTube channels, man. Find a different one, right? But it was a fun podcast. He likes to let you talk, you know? He absolutely will let you talk, which is fun. I like both face-to-face meetings in the community here and on Reese's channel, Birds of a Feather and all that. I like it, Dangerous Journeyman. I really do. I like it. And it's funny because my girlfriend doesn't have a drug problem, you know, doesn't have any addiction in her life. But coming out of that cult, it's pretty wild how much the connection thing has done for her, how much all of the same stuff that we do every day trying to remain sober has taken somebody who was fighting control groups and the same tools in the same way and the same mantras, right? Not suffering in silence, all of that has really turned her life around as well. Steelers Princess says, nobody is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Well, everyone except this girl. She'll be the first to tell you. No, she's never made a mistake. Never. Honestly, she'll break it down for you, tell you how she was successful in everything she's ever done. It's absolutely remarkable. I could pull up the messages and they're like, they're very long and drawn out and hateful. And then they'll be like, I'll write 4 or 5 words and she'll go on another one. There is no doubt in my mind that this person gets drunk to do this. And doesn't mean that, by the way, it doesn't mean that they have a problem with alcohol. It just means that they're an ass when they drink too much, right? Maybe you want to look into that. But Perry Young, good to see you. So let's get to this, huh? Let's get to this thing. Today, Dr. Chavez pled guilty. And this is what's going to happen to him for pleading guilty. They cut him a deal. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a sweetheart deal. Sweetheart deal. 10 years. You provided drugs that killed a human being, right? 10 years. Now, there's a couple of other people pleading guilty on this as well. The 2 people that are not going to plead guilty is Dr. Eric Fleming, also 54, and Kenneth Amwasasa. This person conspired with the person that they call the ketamine queen. Her name is Jasveen Sangha. She's 41 years old and was referred to as the queen of ketamine. We've talked about this on the channel before. We're in a really weird spot. You're seeing all the ages of everybody involved in this for real. Everybody's age is right in the early 50s, 54, 54. They all seem to be very close to that. Yeah. There's a reason for that. We partied. We were one of the last generations where you could experiment with everything and not worry about it killing you the first time you tried it, right? We really were a very abusive generation. So we've been going hard to the paint. Now we find ourselves at an age where we've done a lot of damage to our brain. Life probably isn't really smooth, not without a hell of a lot of therapy and thinking and things of that nature, right? And now all of a sudden, depending on what state you live in, man, a lot of the dope we did isn't even illegal anymore, right? I mean, honestly, depending on where you live, you can buy legally mushrooms, right? You can buy marijuana. Those are 2 drugs that we abused as kids or did as kids. And sure as hell, there are places in the US that you can buy those now. No problem, right? No problem. You also can get ketamine. If you had told me prior to the age of 46 that I'd be able to get out of prison and get weed, shrooms, ketamine, opiates, a lot of this right through your computer screen, telehealth. The way you're looking at me now, same thing, except on the other side of the camera would be a doctor who's going to say what hurts, and I'm going to describe this, and they're going to phone in a prescription. It's getting a lot easier to continue to abuse drugs in this country, depending on what drugs you're abusing. And the narrative has been one of the largest companies that's pushing this type of therapy. By the way, I'm not crapping on this type of therapy. Okay. There are some people that I know that have had a lot of success with it. I will say that. So I'm not crapping on the type of therapy. I'm crapping on the fact that this is going to bring vultures out, people that just want to make money, and the whole Hippocratic oath means nothing to. For instance, this doctor that pled guilty today, right? We already know about the text messages. This person wanted to get this individual taking more and more and more of this, and they were dropping vials off a dozen at a time, right? 12 at a time. This is a problem. This is a problem. So why does this person get 10 years? Because the queen of ketamine and the doctor who was making all of this happen, and that would be Dr. Salvador Plasencia, 42 years of age, aka Dr. P of Santa Monica. Those two are not in the conspiracy that the doctor pled to today, which is amazing, right? Because they all conspired. So you know what that means, right? The two people that are not getting in this deal are going to take all the heat on this deal. The reason that this doctor pled to 10 years, the reason that his personal assistant is going to get a deal, he being Matthew Perry, his personal assistant is going to get a deal. His close friend is going to get a deal, because they're going to flip on the two biggest suppliers in this chain. The question is going to be, what are they going to give the two doctors at the top? And is this a deal with the devil, right? Here's my thing. Why give the doctor a deal? We know what's going on, right? Do we really need the doctor to testify in order to get these two, right? They know that this person is the ketamine queen of North Hollywood. If that's what they're calling her, I would imagine they already knew about her. What do you think? Huh? This probably wasn't a deep investigation if she's already called the ketamine queen. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me to give a deal that kind. 10 years. And here's the thing. He's walking around on the street, people. He's walking around on the street. That to me is astounding. He cut himself a hell of a deal. 10 years in prison, which, by the way, he ain't going to do 10 years on, right? He's going to do probably 8 years on that sentence, right? 8 years on the 10. And he's going to do this in prison land. And that doesn't make sense either, because what this should be a murder beef, which means this person's yard points should be worse than the average. He should be at a United States penitentiary. That's not going to happen. For cutting this deal, this doctor is going to end up in a very, very nice prison that doesn't have fences around it. Now, it may not start there. He may start at an FCI, but I promise you this guy ends up at a camp. Matthew Perry's friends, they're also going to end up at camps. These people don't have long criminal records, if any, and they're all cooperating. You understand that's an issue. The whole world knows that these people are cooperating now. Now, granted, they're not running with gangsters, right? They don't have a bunch of friends who are gang banging, right? These are doctors, and these are people who are assisting famous people in Hollywood. Not really running with the normal criminal trash, if you understand what I'm saying. But it doesn't much matter, right? Because the guys in the joint aren't going to look at it that way. The guys in the joint are just going to look at them like they're rats. So what they're going to do is they're going to get these people away from everybody else, because the name, the name Dr. Eric Fleming, what is it? Yes. No, I'm sorry. Dr. Chavez, right? That's one of those cats that's going to be able to blend in very easily in prison. I'm guessing that that's not a name that's going to jump out into the minds of every person behind bars. He's going to get in there and say, I was writing prescriptions I shouldn't have, right? And then guys will come up to him and ask him questions about drugs all day long. What will this stuff do? What will this stuff do? What will this stuff do? I'm hurting here. They're going to do really soft time, and that kind of bums me out. Yes, Dangerous Journeyman says on John Solomon's website, Just the News, he reports that the doctor probably won't get the whole 10 years. He'll surrender his license forever. My understanding is they have taken the licenses of all doctors involved in this. That has already happened. Okay. But the deal is going to, you're right. You're right. The deal for him, he's certainly not going to do 10, right? He's not going to do 10. The deal for 10, I honestly, I'm pulling this off the AP wire. I would like to see the deal in writing. We're not going to be able to for a while because this is going to be a sealed indictment or a sealed deal for a while. It's gonna be a little bit tougher to see what the deal was, but I bet more than likely that what he pled to was a cap of 10, right? Couldn't go any higher than that. So there is a chance, depending on how much assistance that he provides on this case. And my gut says he's going to bury the other two doctors. That's a hell of a deal. 10 years is a hell of a deal. So I would imagine that the federal government decided that the ketamine queen and the doctor that kind of got this thing up and off the ground and running is the targets. They're the targets in this. They're going to feel better with them behind bars for this crime than anybody else. You know what? This is something that I don't know that people get a handle on this, but when you get a scumbag that's sitting in front of you and there are 9 scumbags on the case, a couple of them are going to get a deal. And the government is going to have to act like this person isn't the dirtbag they are. For instance, this doctor, right? Dr. Chavez, we know that he said, let's see how much money we can get out of this moron. Okay. We know that they intentionally got this guy more and more and more in the hopes of creating a habit that he would need more and more and more. That's pretty disgusting, right? It's pretty disgusting. Leaves you wondering. So there's a deal here, right? It's not even, it shouldn't be hard to read. If you guys start to figure these things out, right? When it says conspiracy, right? There's a lot of people getting charged in all together, right? That's a bunch of individuals, or at least 2, that are all getting charged on the commission of the same crime. So this was a conspiracy. 5 people were involved in this conspiracy. If 3 of them have pled guilty to the conspiracy, they're testifying against the other 2. That's a lock, right? So federal is better? No, it really isn't. Federal is not better normally. And what I mean by that is this: they give you way more time, right? They give out time that you do more of. State facilities, you can usually do about 50% of your sentence, and then you're eligible for parole. There's no parole in the feds, and you got to bring them 85% of your sentence at a minimum. There's also no amenities in the feds. In the state, you can have a video game in your cell. You could have a television in your cell. There are weight piles. There are all of these things that they're not in the feds anymore. They've all been taken out of there. No naked pictures of women. And if you're doing a life sentence, taking that away from people makes them a little angry. But it's very, very different in the feds. However, if you get a white collar crime, right? This is one of those things where you absolutely can end up in a very, very safe facility that doesn't appear at all to be a prison. I have a friend named Bubba, and Bubba pops up in here every once in a while. I was in the halfway house with him. I did not do time with him in prison, but he was at the camp when I was at an FCI. So when we got to the halfway house, we could describe the same things. We got out almost like within a week of each other. So we were all getting locked down at the same time, but I was at the at the FCI, and he would come over with the campers to feed us and clean and do all that stuff, because when they locked us down, the campers never get locked down. I mean, not really. And they live a very different life. When he finally got thrown out of there, I said, "What'd you get caught for doing?" And he said, he got caught drinking, right? And I said, "What were you making the wine at?" And he goes, "Oh, no, we got caught drinking Bud Light." Yeah. I mean, you can just, there are guys there that drive into town as part of what they do for the prison. So yes, there are some criminals that are going to do some really soft time. And I have a feeling that this doctor is one of them. You know something? I'll tell you what, honestly, I don't know what they're charged with. I know that their empire kind of went to hell, but I don't know what it is that they're charged with. So I will take a look at that, and I'll weigh in on it on one of the next shows that we do. But if you tell me what they got charged with, I could probably take a pretty good guess, because a lot of times you can look at what somebody gets charged with, and you can look at how much time they get. And guys that have done time, like in the feds, paperwork's nice to see, because you'll find out who they ratted on and things like that if they're rats. However, you ought to be able to look at what the person's like. They come in and say, I got caught with 500 grams of methamphetamine. And you're like, oh, bummer, man. How much time did you get? 46 months. Run like hell away from that person as fast as you can, right? Tax evasion. Okay, so here's the deal on that, right? Tax evasion you don't get broken off a lot of time for tax evasion. You don't, unless you're an ass. Straight up. It's not enough to you have to be going out of your way to not pay taxes. You have to be very creative with how you're screwing the government. And then when the time comes that you get caught, you continue to BS them, and they will throw the book at you. They will throw the book at you. And I don't know if they pled guilty or went to trial, but the government wants you to know that if you go to trial, they're going to punish you for going to trial. If you plead guilty, they're going to drop your offense level by 3 points. So you're going to do less time simply for pleading guilty. But let's say they offer you a 5-year deal and you say, nah, I think I'll fight it. The judge might give you 25, because they want the next person who gets offered 5 years to go, yeah, I'll take the 5, right? I'll take the nickel. And it's amazing, if a person has been to the feds once, when they start the process of going through again, it's amazing. I was one of those people. When I got there the second time and a lawyer came in and said, all right, so I said, get this done, right? I have no intention of fighting this at all. And I know how bad county jail is. I would at least like to get to prison where I can work out and, be let out of my cell. So we're all doing everything we can to try to get guilty as fast as possible. They went to trial. That's why they got the sentences they got. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. If you guys watch Surviving the Survivor, I was on with an FBI agent who said they offered a guy 3 years. And the guy said to him, you ain't got much evidence. If you're offering 3 years, I think I'll take it to the box. They managed to convict him, and he got 35 years. Does that sound fair to you? This is why they have the conviction rate that they have. Because a conviction rate doesn't mean that they convicted everybody. A person who pleads guilty is convicted. So the reason they have such a high conviction rate is because we all plead guilty so fast it makes your head spin. Gamer Jackie, good to see you. Bank fraud and tax evasion. Yeah, take that to the box and that's what you get. Doesn't surprise me that they broke them off. Really long sentences, because they want the next person. And you think to yourself, well, how's the next person even going to know, right? That the crime will go away? No. That person gets back and comes into a federal holding facility and says to everybody in that federal holding facility, man, I got offered 3 years. I didn't take it, and they just gave me 30. Yeah, there you go. See this? Correct. So the big difference between bank fraud and bank robbery is bank robbery has force or threat of force. So if you're able to rob a bank without the use of force or the threat of force, in other words, you can walk in. I know this for a fact. You can walk up to the teller and say, hey, I don't have any weapon. Don't trip. This isn't about you. You're not in any danger. I just want the money. Give it to me. And you describe how you want the money, because that's kind of specific. If you just say, give me the money, you're going to get $3,000. There's a certain way you have to ask for the money. But if you do that, I didn't threaten that person. I was as sweet as I could be, right? I told the person, there's no weapon here. You got nothing to worry about. Even if you do that, it's still considered a violent crime, because in its nature, and this is the Supreme Court has ruled on this, in its nature, bank robbery is a violent crime. I don't necessarily subscribe to that point of view, but it is what the federal government has decided is the rule. 34 million, 12 and 7 years. I'll tell you what, 12 and 7 isn't as bad as you think. It isn't as bad as you think. But to give you an idea, had they pled guilty, most people get about 5. Right? That those crimes, Wesley Snipes? Wesley Snipes took 5 years, right? He did 5 years on that. 12's a long time on white collar stuff. 12's a long time on white collar stuff. But the feds are going to slap the crap out of you if you take it to the box. If you waste their money, and that's how they look at it. If you waste their money, it's they're gonna make you miserable for wasting their time and money. I promise. To everyone here on the boat, a really big thank you for making me feel so much better. Deepest regards and respect, Anna. Anna, we love you. And I'm glad that you're feeling better. I really am. Christy Hughes, please be safe. And yeah, we'll see you on the replay. I love the replay crew. So if you're listening and you didn't catch us live, I really do love the replay crew. Kiwi Nan, good to see you. Going back to the beginning. Okay. Well, we're glad that you're here. It is interesting. I guess whether I think it's violent or not would depend on the person's response if the teller says no. Well, here's what they're saying. Here's what they're saying. The teller, if I go in and I say, I want you to give me all of the cash, right? The teller assumes, no matter what I say, that if they do not comply, they're in trouble. Now, the bank has told the teller that they have to comply, right? Don't play those games. Don't say to the robber, you're not getting the money, or, no, or play games, or try to slow it down, or try to do anything other than giving them the money. The way they're trained is this. It's FDIC insured, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insured, up to $500,000 per account. So if you steal 17 or 18 grand, the government's just going to give that money back to the bank, and then it's their responsibility to track you down, get you, and make you pay that money back. So, but they say it's by its nature, because the person hits a silent alarm, right? They hit a silent alarm. The people that are coming with guns drawn, and they're probably going to be trigger happy as hell, because they assume it is a violent crime. And we've all seen Heat, right? That's not how most people just walk in and ask the teller to give them money. The Chrisleys should have been prosecuted for being phony Christians who also frauded their audience. Perry Young, I never saw them. Dangerous Journeyman, have a good evening. Thank you for spending some time with us. Something, I have seen them in memes and things like that. It almost seems fake, right? Like I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because I don't care about anybody's lifestyle, but they used to have a character on Saturday Night Live called Lyle, the effeminate heterosexual. And the Chrisley's old man always reminded me of Lyle from Saturday Night Live, right? Where you looked at the guy and went, wait, you're married? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You're married? I would have bet the farm that you weren't married. He just seems like that kind of cat, doesn't he? Barry Young says it was a total joke. Well, it had a huge audience. It had an absolute. Tina Serlin, have a great night. It had a great night. It had a huge audience. Make a lot of sense, but a huge audience. This really is the lifeboat I never knew where to find. However, I am never going to bail on this crew. I love that. Swedish Lena, I love that. Like Christian hee-haw. You know what? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Honestly, that's a great line. And Jody, who says, I thought the Chrisleys were a hoot. I think a lot of people probably did sort of watch laughing, right? Whether that laughing was in, respectful laughing or not, I don't know. I don't know that it matters, right? If they're paying the bills, maybe they're not worried about it too much. Marcy says, yeah, I watched the Chrisleys. Amusing. I have a guy like that I work with. Love him to bits. He's completely pings off my gaydar, but apparently not. It really is one of those things where he really, I thought for sure, and I never watched the show, like I said, and not because, I was locked up. Like when they were really becoming popular, I was incarcerated. So I would occasionally see him in like People magazine or something like that, you know. Gaslit, love the name. Love the name. By the way, the little mean person I was talking about earlier, the really funny thing is they sent me this text all with all this hate. And I wrote back and just said, my God, you got to be one of the meanest people I've ever met. And her response was, no joke. Her response was, just like you, to start with the name calling and all that again. I said, I'm sorry, what? It's 12:30 at night. You woke me up with this. What do you mean I am doing this? Like gaslight much? God help us. Miss Dragon, good to see ya. We got gas. Howdy. Rick Spicer, good to see you. Monk. Kristen Melinda says, Kiwi Nan, Blessed Crochet makes really cool stuff. She was nice enough to share some things with me. She has a channel too. The official birthday cake of the lifeboat was made by Blessed Crochet. She's awesome, actually. Jack Court says, I feel Christy's wife got messed up and she should have gotten less. And the dude who taught him how to steal should have gotten more than 5 years. So there was somebody in here who was the educational thieving raccoon guy, huh? The thieving dude taught everybody how to do this, but only got 5. A lot of times, that's the guy that cuts the deal, right? That's the guy that cuts the deal. Caught my first show the other day and loved it. Gaslit, what a cool thing to say. Oh, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the lifeboat. Really dig it. Working late and was excited to catch you live. Yeah, best mood lifter ever. You know what? It's a great crowd. Pirate Queen, nice to have you. It's a really great crowd. And the crew of the lifeboat really does lift up anybody that shows up here. It's just kind of what they do. Laura, good to see you. If you're brand new, no joke whatsoever. Like this started 3 years ago and some change, like 3.5 years ago. The Tommy Scoville show. Hated the name. Told people that day one. I said, but you know, this thing's gonna figure out what its name is as we get going, because I'm not gonna have it be my name. I don't want it to be about me. And it was it ended up being a competition. We kept saying all the time, you know, we're all in the same boat. I don't care whether you're eating too much or you're a gambling addict or you have a drug problem or it's alcohol. We're all in the same boat. It's the same behaviors. Falling down drunk is a symptom. Stealing to get the dope you need for your opiate addiction, that's a symptom. These are symptoms of the addiction, but your symptoms might be way worse than mine, or your symptoms might be nothing compared to mine. I mean, my symptoms were bank robbery. I was doing crazy stuff to get the money, right? But those are the symptoms. We're all in the same boat, and we put it open for a competition and came up with the name The Lifeboat. I didn't come up with it. The crew did. And the crew voted on it. And that's how we've done everything with the boat from Jump Street. The first time I went live, everybody said, you got to, this is going to be a live show from now on. It was his accountant, and he did it because Christy broke up with him. Oh, okay. So this guy, all right, I'm telling you, he looks like he's probably more fond of men than women. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. But Oasis tickets are going on sale tomorrow. It's just Sensational Cinema. I did not know that. Sorry, just looking for something. Tallulah Bankhead? Yes. I remember Tallulah Bankhead. I do actually. Spike is tracking humidity, wind speed, barometric pressure. You're not chasing storms, are you? This is a lifeboat quiz. All right, then. He could be bi and choose to act like a cartoon character for TV. You know, that's probably about the best way to say it. Honestly, it's got to be a character, right? I mean, that guy cannot act like that when the camera's not on. I just don't buy it. Oh, I just remembered that Joker Folie à Deux is coming out this week. I want to see that. I'm not going to be able to see that. The Hitchcock movie should be Birds, right? Didn't Tallulah Bankhead play in Hitchcock's The Birds? If it's not The Birds, then it's North by Northwest. There you go. Those are my two guesses. If I'm wrong, I'll be bummed out. I'm a fan of Hitchcock. I'm a fan of anything that is like cinema noir. Like I dig black and white stuff. I really dig the older stuff. You know something, Charlie? If you knew, man, I really do hate that stuff. It is just the most foul. Connects back to Scientology. Well, now I'm really lost. I tell you all, the Diddy is wild and can't wait to see it all fall. You know something? Oh no, there's definitely some Scientologist tie-ins with Diddy. Absolutely. Oh, Tippi Hedren, you're right. Tippi was Birds. Vincent Price, yeah. Whatever happened to Baby Jane? Yeah, Diddy is. I don't think we're gonna see a lot of Diddy stuff getting brought back to Scientology because there is an awful lot of overlay in there. So listen, I made it 50 minutes without doing anything on Diddy. You know that I was at the press conference. We Joel and I did the press conference. That press conference was terrifying, right? The ages of the people they're talking about, just really disturbing. 9 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old. Seems like the lower the age, the more chance it is that it was a boy. Seemed like all of the really young victims so far that they have talked about have been boys. And it's really unfortunate. You sleep to Dragnet with Jack Webb every night? Just the facts, man. Just the facts. So this is going to be one of those situations going forward. Yeah, 9 years old, right? William Bendix, Hume Crone. Got to see the movie. Lifeboat. I do not know the movie. Now I'm thoroughly bummed out, Perry Young. I'm going to have to actually look that up. I did not even know that there was a book. Any update on Danny Basterson? Well, I'll tell you something. It's funny that you say that, and this is why I said we're at the 52 minute mark. I feel like now is probably not such a bad time. Hey, Joy of Cats, this is not such a bad time to comment on some Diddy stuff. But so this is kind of an odd situation. There's the rumors that are flying around. Listen, did he hire a new legal team? Yeah, he did. For the purpose of trying to he's not going to get out on bail. And if he does, if he gets out on bail, we're screwed because it means that somebody's been paid off. There's no other reason I can see ever allowing that individual to get out. Because the more you look at what this cat did when he was out, he violated everything. Now, Perry Young says Ashton Kutcher is regretting supporting Danny. Well, he was also pretty good friends with Diddy, right? And his name keeps coming back up and back up and back up. There's a lot of film out there of Ashton Kutcher that didn't age well. But the new thing is this. I covered Ashton Kutcher going to the girl's house, his girlfriend's house. She had been unalived. He looked through the window and saw what he thought was red wine. Now, if you saw what you thought was red wine on the floor, you probably wouldn't get in your car panicking and call your agent and allegedly Danny Masterson. And he made a lot of phone calls. It was supposedly a very long time before he then called the police. That's creepy, right? That's creepy. Now, there is a conspiracy theory, and I will say it's a conspiracy theory because there's certainly no truth to it yet. I mean, proof to it yet. But Ashton Kutcher dated a girl who died at a very young age. She was in the film Clueless. She was in a couple of other films. In fact, she was in one with him, Brittany Murphy. You guys remember Brittany Murphy? Well, if you look up what Brittany Murphy passed from, it looks a lot like, on paper, it looks an awful lot like what Kim Porter died from. But do you remember when the Kim Porter book was cooking and I said, I read the Kim Porter book. If it's true, it's super, super incriminating, right? It really is. Well, that book was taken down today, right? Yeah, she was in 8 Mile, Latoya. That's correct. She was excellent in 8 Mile too. So they're talking about wanting to exhume her, and it looks to me like it's a very similar death. Now, if that's the case, then they probably would have to exhume both. But the more they dive into this, the more you realize that, well, let's just keep it real. So an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old comes in with their parents for an audition, and you assault this kid with the parents in the next room 8 feet away. The level of hubris, the level of, you ain't getting in any trouble. Yeah, maybe they did unalive some people, right? Same as Britney's husband 1 year to the day after Britney. I'm telling you, there's a lot of smoke around a lot of people who are no longer with us. There's a ton of smoke around a lot of these people. Like, those who follow this think to themselves, it might be interesting to start reopening some of these cases. And obviously the big ones, we all know the really big ones, right? Like Biggie and Tupac. But there's a lot of other people along the way that maybe we need to revisit. She was your Hollywood crush. I liked Brittany Murphy. I thought she was a fantastic actor. I really did. Now, if you look at the people that I hung out with prior to getting busted and going to prison, and you went through the whole list of all of the friends that I hung out with, you can bet the farm that there's only a couple of them, right, that didn't do dope. Right? And there were very few of them that didn't ski. I had very specific things that I was into, and all of the people that I hung out with were into the same things that I was into, down to the hobbies and the drug habits and all of that. Well, I don't think it's any different in Hollywood. And I'll tell you something. Allegedly, there's a lot of really creepy stuff that happened with a lot of creepy cast members from that show he was on, right? There were a lot of really crazy allegations made against a lot of people for really digging underage girls. Never saw any arrests, but boy, there was a lot of chatter. I remember the chatter back then, and I wasn't even really into it. Right? The guy that played Fess or whatever his name is, there was a lot of rumors about him. Allegedly, because he denied it, right? But there was just a lot of smoke around that. There really was. Now you look at Danny Masterson and you go, Danny Masterson was hanging out with Ashton Kutcher. They were the best of friends, right? Diddy and he were good friends. There was a time in this country where they were bragging about putting together a new Rat Pack, like the Sinatra days. But this was the newest version of the Rat Pack. Well, this version, there's a lot of people that seem to get in trouble for the same kind of stuff. And that stuff is they want to be in complete control over the individual that they're with, male or female. And by complete control, I mean they want them as close to unconscious as possible, right? They would like them to be awake so they could kind of pose them, and the person is going to be malleable, right? You got to understand that a lot of times this is going to just wipe out any kind of inhibitions, right? And you go, well, what kind of person gets their inhibitions wiped out? Anybody that takes these drugs. Anybody. This is a reason why 3-letter agencies around the world use drugs to interrogate people. Because in your head, you've got this thing that I would never tell on my friends. I would never tell on my friends. I would never. Well, if you would never, they give you enough of this stuff, and it's going to lower your inhibitions to the point where you're like, I don't care. I'll talk to you about it, whatever. And a lot of these people that got assaulted with drugs. And like I said, if you went back and looked at any of my friends, you're going to find people that stole. You're going to find people that skied, and you're going to find people that did dope. And this little circle of friends seem to all be into the same thing, which is assaulting women when they're no longer awake. Real freaking heroes. And the saddest thing, and this is again the proof, you do know these people would not have any problem having sex with women. Like, picking up a woman isn't a hard thing to do if you are in a hit TV series. But the proof of it is this isn't about sex. It's not. It's about control. It's about all kinds of other stuff, but it is not about sex. So the people that say, man, it's not, those guys had to do that because they couldn't get, no, it's not about that. It's not. Very often these people have beautiful girlfriends, but they're off doing this stuff because it's about controlling. It's about humiliating. It's about victimizing. No shit. And we saw this because Masterson, he was in the cult of Scientology, right? Creepy ass cult. So they were supposed to handle this in-house, right? So he re-victimized the victims by insisting that he get to sit in the room with them when they were talking about, he literally wanted to hear them describe the assault. I heard that. I'm not kidding. I heard that 20 minutes before he got sentenced out there in the courtroom. And boy, oh boy, did it make his sentencing more fun. It really did. It made Mad Mug and his family from the other side of the room more fun, too. I don't know whether it was my proximity to A.A. Ron or the fact that I had done shows with him, but boy, his brother, his mom, everybody over in that section was just looking at us like they didn't like us. Kind of a shocker, but that was fun to be out there. It really was. It's a solemn occasion. It's because the people there went through hell, right, to bring that guy to justice, and it's kind of bittersweet because it's never really going to be justice, is it? It isn't. But on the bright side, that bastard disappearing for 30 years doesn't suck. It really doesn't. Steeler Princess says, I still think Jay-Z had something to do with Chester Bennington. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I have no idea. And I wouldn't even know how to guess on that. But what I will tell you is this. What is happening is causing a lot of people in this country to re-examine a lot of things, stuff that we maybe took for granted, right? It's just, of course, that's how it happened, right? The coroner, man, you get up around $1 billion, you get up around $1,000 million, like you got $999 million in your bank. One more and you're a billionaire. You get to that kind of money, nobody cares. You can now start doing things and truthfully believe you're untouchable. That you're untouchable. Perry Young says, hey, has anybody heard of Pete from Jay-Z? Yes, people have heard from Jay-Z. I would imagine his attorneys have been hearing from Jay-Z, but he is silent like a grave, So is LeBron James. So is everybody, right? Nobody's out there. Then what's really funny is this, right? When the Me Too movement happened and people started to get caught doing X, Y, or Z, did not all of these people then start, this became a thing. Hold on one second. When somebody would be outed, let's say this person had assaulted people or whatever, a bunch of people would come out and condemn what was done. If they were close, they would say something like, well, so-and-so and I don't condemn him as a human, but I condemn what he did, right? That's probably a good thing to say. I knew that, Swedish Lena. Jane Doe 1 is back in court against the cult of Scientology on the 10th. I knew that. We'll probably talk about that around that day. Radio silence says no to truth. You know what? It is radio silence. It's like a vacuum, right? No one's saying a word. And LeBron James, right? Sweet Liberty says, don't get me started. And do you know why Sweet Liberty says that? Because this fool used to come out and make a point of saying, you know what? I'm not going to allow anybody to victimize anyone black because they don't have a voice. I'm going to be that voice. Unless it's Diddy. And then I'm going to lose my voice, right? It's going to go completely silent. That fool doesn't have a voice. I'm really looking forward to seeing a perp walk. I'm sorry, maybe it's a fantasy. Hey, Yadira, but I'm really looking forward to seeing a grip of these people walk out in handcuffs. A whole line of them, right? For real. I want to see this rock Hollywood to its core. I want to see some people who have been knighted by the Queen handcuffed. I really do. I think that there are people out there who's got the sir before their name who are complete and utter scumbags, and there's a history of this, isn't there? Do we got anybody from Great Britain here? Wasn't it Sir Jimmy Savile? Wasn't Jimmy knighted? talk about a low life. You know something? Harvey is an unusual cat. TMZ is complicit, says Gaslit. I'm not going to argue that point. I'm really not. I don't think I don't think I could. I'm not sure I could argue that point. You're right. Now to TMZ's credit, one of the reasons that I think TMZ isn't saying much. So when TMZ sort of got rolling, they got in a lot of trouble over a lot of things. Right? They don't anymore. And the reason that they don't is they double check and triple check, and they really do an awful lot to chase down the things before they say them. And I think right now on Diddy, there's a lot of smoke, but we're not really getting down to the fire. I believe it's there, right? I wholeheartedly believe it's there. And if you caught the press conference that I did the show with my friend Joel the other day, that press conference said, we're going to start seeing these cases coming out this month. And it's going to be one after another, after another, after another. Well, when these cases start coming out, we're going to hear names. Trust and believe we're going to hear names, because there are names in these cases. There are people that are going to be named, and we're going to hear about it. Anunnaki Child says, Oprah Winfrey and Clintons are part of it all. You know what? You could probably talk to my friend Sean Atwood over on the Sean Atwood program. I've been on there a couple of times in the last few weeks. Great show, great guy. He's written a book about the what he calls the Clinton crime family, and he's got a lot to say on this subject, and I think he's better versed in it than I am. I'm not a fan of this woman. I think she's evil. Now, I'm not. This is an opinion. You hear me? I'm not saying that I'm alleging she does anything other than give me the freaking creeps, but she does. I get a bad vibe from her, and I have for a really long time. Gary Glitter was another really low-life piece of crap, to be sure. Yeah, Gary Glitter's no bueno either. So, I'll be really honest. In the very beginning, I wasn't seeing it. In the beginning, I thought she was kind of fantastic. But the longer she's around, the more I start to realize that she's not all that great. You know what? I'm glad that you said this, because I'm not the one saying it, but it's a fact. This was one of those situations when the victims of the former president were coming forward and telling their stories. They used to call them bimbo eruptions. She would say, we're having another bimbo eruption. And her go-to move was to come out into the world and call them whores and sluts and other really lovely names, and that they were after her husband for political reasons. Man, if you had looked at any of those, these people didn't seem to be after him. Most of them seemed to be really badly cornered by him. But those are allegations, right? Doesn't necessarily mean they're true. Although he sure as hell settled, didn't he? Sure as hell gave away a lot of money. All right. Dastardly Saboteur says, Wilmer Valderrama learned how to throw parties from Diddy. I'm not saying that. My friend is. I will say this. Certainly a lot of people that talk about that, aren't there? Right? A lot of smoke around this cat, whether you want to believe it or not. There's a lot of smoke around this cat, and a bunch of women who haven't quite hit that 18 mark. Seems he's really, really fond of women that aren't quite legal. That's a problem, people. That is a problem. Hey, Nesquik Milk, good to see you. Layla Bradley, what's happening? Layla. Google, Gaslit says, Google Scientology and Clinton. I'm going to have to do that. I've never once tried to put the two of them together. Isn't that odd? But I have never tried to do that. I promise you I'm going to. Gaslit says, Diddy connects it all. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. And I'm not being funny when I say that. The tentacles of this are terrifying. And I feel like there aren't enough people that are really kind of seeing this. But we're talking about sports, right? We're talking about hip hop. We're talking about movies. We're talking about all of these tentacles coming together, right? And they all overlap at these huge parties where people were drugged and filmed allegedly. 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 I got to be really honest with you. It's I'm getting a little tired of saying allegedly, but we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to say allegedly because it keeps them from showing up and trying to get angry with you. With $1 billion US, you could house 33,333 people for a year at $2,500 each month for each person, which is really funny because when you start doing the math, no joke, it would probably be cheaper to take all of the inmates in the federal prison and put them up at a Hilton. I'm not being funny. It would probably cost you less money to do that. They pay, when I was in, they were paying $36,400 a year per inmate on an average, right? It's about $36,000. You definitely could put me up in nicer digs for that kind of money. Give me better food. But I believe it's a big picture, and I believe that entertainment is full of perverts, and I think this has been going on forever. And you know something? It's hard, right? It's hard to argue with some of the stuff, right? How do you argue that? Explain that to me. How do you argue that? How do you argue that this woman seems to be friends with a lot of dirtbags, right? Now, I'll tell you something. I used to be friends with a lot of dirtbags, right? But I was a criminal. I don't know what she is. Dang, that budget is more than my first full-time job salary. Well, you know what? It doesn't surprise me. BJ Investigates got it to the start of for-profit prisons. I don't know if I know BJ Investigates. I'll have to check him out. But, you know, every once in a while, someone will throw out a name, and then when I go to look at it, it's a person that, you know, makes crappy videos about me. But that's good. You know what? When people are making crappy videos about you, it's because you're doing something right? People usually don't troll the not successful channels. Tesla Gray, almost like an initiation of the top tier levels of all industry here. You know what? That's what's being alleged, isn't it? That's what's being alleged. And we're hearing about rituals, right? Apparently the early days of the freak-offs, allegedly, they were wearing masks, right? To keep their identities separate. But you know what? You start wearing masks, and what you end up looking like is what? You end up looking like eyes wide shut. Latoya says, that's insane. I lived pretty comfortably as a single mom of two, $33K annually. Well, I'll tell you something. I lived really shabby on the money that they were paying. They didn't do much to help us. Oh, she's been on Rabbits? Yeah, I dig Rabbit. She gave up her law license because of the trolls. Wow, that sucks. That's really tough. Pay to play for the rich and famous. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that. And I think that exactly what was going on with Epstein is exactly what was going on with Diddy. And I don't mean that the theories or anything else. I just mean people who were powerful and famous were being put into compromising positions so that they could leverage those people with blackmail and whatever. Well, think about this for a second, right? By the way, hypotheticals. I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical here, right? Because I lived as a criminal for a while. So just throw out a hypothetical. What if you did own a guy like King James, right? What if you did? What if he was going into the championship games and you just said to him, hey, you know what? I don't think you should have a really good game today. I don't think you should, because I'll tell you why. I bet against you, right? And I'm taking the under. So this game needs to lose, and I'd like to keep the score under 110 combined. So get out there and suck. What's he going to say? Put all that you got on me on the cover of the New York Times. I'm cool with it. I don't think so. I don't think it works like that. But I think this gives people, because you say, why would you want a sports figure? Are you kidding? If you knew you could get someone to throw a game, you got any idea how much money that's worth? Got any idea what a sure thing is worth? It's terrifying. It really is, especially if that team is favored. Like if they're going off at long shots and you call them and say 7-1, yeah, you need to lose this. It's frightening when you start thinking of what someone can do with this kind of evidence. And it's not about sex, but sex is such a shamed thing in culture that it's the easiest way to shame somebody. And gay sex, right? If this is the initiation that men had to do to get into this industry, you got them, because gay sex, especially in that industry. Yeah. You're referring to Adnan Khashoggi, right? Or Khashoggi, or whatever the hell they're calling him. Used to call him Khashoggi when I was a kid, but apparently it's Khashoggi or some stuff now. And his nephew got killed pretty famously recently. At one point, they did an article about his father in Forbes, and they said that he had a living room in his home that was made completely of gold. Adnan Khashoggi was an arms dealer. And he used to be selling arms to both sides of any conflict. He was an absolute lowlife. Theoretically, right? He was probably a lot like the character that that was played in Dogs of War, like that kind of a human, right? But very few understand who the Boule Secret Society is and what they do. Yeah, I know that it's a black fraternity. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'll be really honest, I don't. And you know why I don't? Not because I don't want to know, but it's not that easy to research. It's really not. There are some pat answers out there that are BS or look like it is. Quotas of wickedness is a goal of ceremonies and rituals. Quotas of wickedness. It's an interesting way to put it. Oh, wow. Anna says, my autistic son just Skyped from Sweden. He wanted me to say hi to all of you. Well, hello. That's fantastic. Hello from Sweden. Very cool. Yes, his nephew was a journalist. He was a journalist that wound up dead because he was a journalist that he went out of his way to attack some pretty powerful people. And they allegedly brought him into a consulate, yeah? And then whacked him in there. That's the theory anyway. But yeah, his uncle was a bad man. To be sure, his uncle was a bad man. I am going to no, it is the same Khashoggi. Adnan is the uncle of the Khashoggi kid that got killed inside the embassy. At least that is how it has always been reported. That was his uncle. So Uncle Adnan was that's how if I'm wrong, so is AP and a lot of other people, because that's the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, correct. But it has been reported that he is the nephew of Adnan Khashoggi or whatever, former arms dealer to everybody. Vixen is laying with one eye open. Well, all right. All right, I'm going to do the Scientology deep dive on this, I promise. Yes, Franklin MC. That I've been able to get, right? This is what I mean. There is some pat kind of answers. Mafia muscle isn't. I don't know that they usually put that in with the rest of but the rest of it I've read a few times to be sure. Yes, Perry Young. It's terrifying, isn't it? It really is terrifying what happened to that cat. And at the time, they weren't making a lot of it in the news about. Correct. The murdered Khashoggi wrote for the Washington Post. It's his uncle who was Adnan. And I think if you Google that, you will find that is true. Did you see Gene Deal's comment on the last Diddy conference? He said, putting an info line for victims will bring false reports. He's also skeptical about the number 120 for some reason. I'll tell you what. I like Gene Deal. right? And I think that Gene Deal is an honest man. I really believe he is. But we got a circus on our hands. We have a circus on our hands. I don't know if you saw Jaguar Wright, right? Shout out to Rabbit, who was right. Jaguar Wright is a consummate performer, but I don't think she's helping this case. She's a hell of a performer, but I don't think she's helping this case. And I think that there's a lot of people coming out that aren't helping this case. I think there's a lot of people making a lot of noise that are no longer helping. And Gene Deal has been gone for a really long time. By his own admission, Diddy wasn't using drugs when he was around him, right? Diddy wasn't doing anything bisexual when he was around him. According to Gene Deal, everything that Diddy did that was wild started to happen when Deal left, which is why Deal left, according to him, right? That's about the time he left. So wouldn't that be a hard thing for him to comment on whether or not 120 is realistic if you weren't there for any of those parties? I don't know. Seems like an odd thing to be able to answer with any kind of intelligence. I don't know that you could. I thought that was pretty cool too. Yeah, Latoya, I got nothing against Deal. I don't have anything against him. I just think that I'll tell you what I know, right? I'll tell you what I know is that the more interviews you do on the same subject, it gets difficult to not push each one a little bit further. And if you've been watching him over time, he has evolved. I think all of those people that are tight in that inner circle that are talking about all the parties they've been out and all of these things should be really careful. I think we can guess at least a couple of hundred says gaslit. And you know what? Think about this. Freak offs. Let's say he did one a month. And I bet you there was a lot more than that. But let's say he did one a month. That's 12 a year, right? That's 120 over a decade. That's 240 over 20 years. They're saying he's been doing it for more than 20 years. You don't think there was at least one victim at every one of those? And now what about parties that had nothing to do with freak offs? What about all of the people that came out to audition? Because that's where they're saying most of these people got SA'd. These were people that showed up saying, I want to show you that I can sing. I want to show you that I can do this. I want to show you that I can do whatever they were auditioning for. They end up, taking a knee for Sean Combs. Yeah. Disturbing, huh? Really, really disturbing. But we're going to see what happens. I'm concerned about a lot of the people who were really close, because I bet you that a lot of one a month for 3 days straight. Here's the other thing about this. Over the course of all of those years, the number of people that came by for auditions, the number of people at the freak offs, or the number of people that is just damn always around and always partying, right? Allegedly, all of the employees had to carry fanny packs full of dope, right? Had to have some perk 30s in there. And we know that they're not perk 30s now, don't we? Right? With all that dude's cash, he could not get fent, right? He couldn't avoid fent. With all the cash he had, he was doing trank. His victims were doing trank. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. Should let everybody in the world know how tainted the drug supply is. Prince got fent, right? Diddy got fent. If those guys with their connections and their cash can't get clean dope, who's gonna? I don't think there's any left, people. Let that be a lesson. Just joined your crew. This voyage is getting wild. Love from the UK. Karen Lindsay, I'm glad you're here. Love the UK. Really love the UK. It is gross, gaslit. It's disgusting. In his homes, in hotels, in his recording studios, on boats, right? He went to Cannes Film Festival, right? He spent his summers vacationing, and he spent his winters vacationing in places all over the world, right? On boats and on yachts and in hotels. And I promise you, there are going to be victims everywhere. Perry Young says, I saw an interview with Christopher Williams, months old, where he did not mention scandal, but he spoke in codes. The nurse who loved me says that trank stuff is terrifying from what I have seen on YouTube. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's a vested interest to make it look worse than it is. And I hate it when they do stuff like that. But in this particular case, it's as bad as, even if they're trying to make it look worse, I don't know how much worse they can make it look. The xylazine, right? Xylazine is something that you're going to inject into the muscle of a horse. I mean to tell you that the difference between the muscle on a horse and the subcutaneous layer on a human being, which is more like a sponge than anything else, if that xylazine, if you miss, you understand this concept? You got to stick a hypodermic into a vein, right? If you miss that vein, or if you go all the way through, when you start to push the fluid in, it doesn't go into your vein. It goes into the subcutaneous layer, and it's going to begin to rot away your skin almost instantly. We've seen the really disgusting, tough sores that you're seeing people have. And they're, especially out in Kensington and places like this, they're lopping off people's ankles, wrists, fingers. Amputations are an epidemic in that part of the country right now. Necrotic is the correct word. Instantly, the skin goes necrotic, just starts to die, gets very black. And I'll tell you something. I've watched drug addicts when I was still using H. I watched guys whose arms would get that big before they would go to the doctor because their fear was, when I go to the doctor, I'm not going to get any more dope. They're going to make me quit this and I'm going to get sick. And I knew guys who died with infections because they wouldn't go up to the hospital and get treated by people that weren't even going to ask them or care how they got the infection. I doubt he's buried any victims that passed. I'm sure he cremated them, so there's no evidence. You would think so, right? You would think so. Attorney Busby said they would be holding accountable banks, venues, corporations, hotel chains, etc. You know what else he said? He also said, and if you were in the house of a famous person doing this, he didn't say anything, right? He did not say anything that had not been planned. Do you understand what I mean? Everything he said at that press conference, he said to scare the people out there that were listening. When he said, I bet there's a lot of you out there right now that are nervous. He knows who he's talking to. Latoya says, Jag was just on, what's his name's channel? Piers Morgan's channel. Yeah, here's the deal. I saw that one, man. I saw that one. You may want to occasionally throw out the word alleged, especially if what you're talking about is removing somebody from planet Earth. It's not, you can come on here and say, like I can come on here and say, hey, Jaguar Wright alleges, and then say whatever that idiot said, because I'm not the one alleging it. But she needs to probably be careful. And here's the thing. I like watching her. I really do. It's just getting to the point, though, where you're like, some of the claims that she's come out with are so over the top that you just go, there's no way. Right? She ends up looking like she's nuts, says Gaslit. We didn't know she was a dominatrix. We didn't know she was a sex worker, right? Some of the stuff that came out just seems like it's really kind of out of left field, Helena Flock of Swanboat says, I wonder if she's counting on how loud she is as her protection. That's a possibility. I mean, it is. There's a lot of truth to the fact that light is a hell of a disinfectant. And the more people that are looking at you, the less chance you got of probably getting whacked. Yeah. You know what? A person who keeps the tapes to revisit them might have a tomb with stacks of bones. You know what? Could be. Honestly. Piers Morgan is such a low life, says Swedish Lena. You know what? That Piers Morgan's a hell of a guy, right? Good dude. I'm just saying that because, they're looking for guys like us to, ladies, like Rabbit to go on there and comment on this. So Piers, if you're listening, you're a hell of a guy. I can't back that up, dude. Don't have me on your show. I don't really like you much. Yeah. It should be really, it should be really wild to see what happens in the next month, because they're going to start rolling out all of these cases. And to the people who do not seem to get it, the reason there was a press conference there, that was not the police. Those were just lawyers, right? Everybody there were lawyers. Now, they were smart enough to have some very intelligent people there to talk about things like victims and to talk about victim shaming and things of that nature. I thought that was great, but they're just attorneys, man. That is what they are. They're just attorneys. And there are attorneys that are running a pretty big investigation, which leads you to say, why didn't the federal government find all of these people? How come the federal government doesn't have these 120 people testifying? You mean it was this easy for these guys to go do this? Do I think Jag works for the feds? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I think the feds would get really angry about her shooting her mouth off as much as she does if she was working for him. I think she may just have a lot of dirt on a lot of people. Now, the trouble becomes as you start to give that dirt out, you get a lot of views, you get a lot of attention, you start to really get some credibility and some traction, right? But you got to keep doing it. Got to keep doing it. And you can't keep telling the same story every time or people stop watching. So you got to kind of keep coming up with things that are really kind of sensational. And I don't know, if they were that sensational, wouldn't you have told the stories in the beginning? Hello, Squirrel Nut Zipper. A little late, aren't we? Been off playing hooky. There's going to be a lot here that's gonna, and the sad thing is this: we're going to see a lot of stuff when this is over that's going to lead. My camera's clear again. No way to tell how any of this is happening. Then I really apologize, and it's not the same computer, so no way to tell. It's on the bright side. I'll be in bug tussles soon, and that's fiber optic. Be back with my girlfriend. That should help out a lot. It's going to be really wild to see how this all plays out. This is something that, by the way, I'm not sure if this is, Perry, if you saw someone bring this up someplace else, or if this is a theory that just occurred to you, but there's a lot of people now talking about snuff films. There are so many people talking about it that it's getting traction. I don't know if there's any truth to that, right? Now, is it a stretch to go from somebody drugging somebody to somebody killing somebody? I don't know if it is. I really don't know if it is. Maybe it's a stretch, maybe it's not. They're lowlights, right? You like the short of squirrel lying on her back? I got about 500 videos of that cat on her back like that, because that's everywhere I go. She follows me and does that. She's a hell of a cat. But thank you, Latoya. I will tell her you said that. We're going to end up seeing a lot of crazy stuff. And make no mistake, I don't dig it. I really don't. I do see people getting, I like seeing people get what they got coming. But it's not fun to cover all the time. It's really not. It's horrific. But I'm going to keep bringing it to you because there's so much BS out there that I promise I'm going to keep wading through it. I'm going to try to make sure that what I'm bringing to you is legit. Then I'll give a huge shout out to Joel, who helps quite a bit with that. He's a professional. He really is, right? Guy's got an Emmy for doing just this kind of stuff. So I have a lot of fun over there with him, and it makes me feel really solid that he's chasing that down. And as I said, I will be heading to Tennessee to be with my girlfriend as soon as humanly possible. Steelers Princess says, think about all the GHB they gave to victims. I was partying viciously when GHB was really on the scene, and it's dangerous, man. They're talking about it like it's not as dangerous as it is, but you can accidentally check out on that stuff, right? We all know about River Phoenix was on that, some other stuff, but on that as well the day that he left us. So, all right, people. I am going to be back tomorrow. Between now and then, I want you to reach out and try to save somebody. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming tomorrow and the next day, so be on the lookout. And I will be announcing any place else I will be on the Lifeboat page. So be looking for that, because I am getting around, so to speak. And Quibs, if you're watching this, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.